The stars had never looked so quiet. Above Earth, 20 massive alien ships hovered like shadows against the moon. They didn't fire, they didn't speak. They simply arrived, blocking satellites, jamming signals, and shutting down every communication. Channel humans had dot at first. No one knew what was happening. Power grids failed, spaceports shut down, GPS systems went dark. It felt like the beginning of a war. People ran to shelters, locked their doors, and watched the sky with fear. Then, a voice came. Not from Earth, not from any known frequency. It echoed in every language, on every device, as if the sky itself had spoken. For the safety of the galaxy, Earth is now under forced protection. You may not leave. You may not build. You will not resist. This is the Treaty of Containment. Number 1 voted for it. No one on Earth signed anything. Yet somehow, it was already agreed. The Galactic Council had decided humanity was dangerous. Within minutes, alien drones flew down from the ships. They surrounded every launch site, every research facility, every orbital tower. Space agencies were told to stop all operations. Any ship attempting to leave Earth would be destroyed. Earth, once dreaming of the stars, had become a cage. In Geneva, world leaders gathered, angry and confused. They tried to contact the Council. There was no reply, only silence. A second message followed. You are not prisoners. You are protected. Stay on your planet. Develop in peace. The galaxy thanks you for your cooperation. But it wasn't peace. It was control. The aliens had placed monitors across Earth's hovering cameras. Invisible barriers, hidden sensors that watched and listened. They claimed it was for safety, but everyone could feel it. They were being watched. The aliens didn't. Walk Earth's streets. They stayed above, distant and cold. They used machines to do their work. Machines that followed orders without mercy. People protested. Riots broke out. A few nations tried to shoot down the drones, but their weapons failed. The alien tech was far beyond human understanding. One by one, resistance fell. Not because of war, but because of silence. Quiet control. Invisible fear. 3 months passed. Earth's skies stayed locked. No ship was allowed to launch. All international space missions were canceled. Mars colonies were left silent, their people cut off, or worse, taken. People began to forget the stars. Children were taught that space was dangerous, that aliens were peaceful guardians, that Earth had made mistakes long ago, mistakes it now had to pay for. But not everyone believed that story. In a quiet part of Kazakhstan, far from city lights, a small group gathered beneath the earth. Hidden inside a long-abandoned Soviet bunker, old minds and young rebels met in secret. They called themselves Breakers. They had no weapons, no ships. Only knowledge, old blueprints, and a deep anger that wouldn't die. An old man named Dr. Velerov sat at the head of the table. He had once been one of Earth's lead space engineers. Now his name was erased from every database. We warned them, he said softly, tracing a star map on cracked paper. We told them this would happen. The Council fears what it does, not control. Across from him sat a young woman named Kara. She was barely 20, sharp eyes, steady hands, and a past full of pain. Her parents had vanished during the first weeks of the treaty. They don't want peace, she said. Want obedience? Velerov nodded. And we, he whispered, must remind them who they chained. In space, the alien watchers continued their work. The Council's agents, scold beings from 1,000 worlds, believed they had done the right thing. Humanity, they thought, was unstable, dangerous, too emotional, too ambitious. They remembered. The first time humans entered the galactic stage, it wasn't gentle, Earth had found. Faster than light travel through experimentation, not permission. Humans launched themselves into deep space without asking. They made contact with warlike species, built strange weapons, and survived things no other race could. They weren't supposed to adapt that fast. They weren't supposed to win. And worst of all, they had no fear. The Council feared one thing more than violence: unpredictability. So they acted now. Earth was boxed in, isolated, contained. They believed the problem was solved. They were wrong. Back in the bunker, Velarov opened a crate. Inside was something no one should have had, a stolen alien core. It glowed faintly, pulsing with quiet energy. Where did you get that? Kara whispered, Velar, gave a tired smile. Before the lockdown, I had friends, he said. Not all aliens agree with their council. Some believe what happened to Earth is a mistake. Kara reached toward it. What is it? Velarov looked serious. It's a power source. For a ship that doesn't exist. And around the room, eyes lit up. Plans were made. Old metal was salvaged. AI systems were rebuilt from scrap. They used Earth's own junk. Satellites shot down. Parts lost in war, and began to build something impossible. A stealth ship. One that couldn't be tracked. One that could slip through the alien net around Earth. Not to escape, but to find answers. Weeks turned into months, while Earth's people adjusted to their new lives. The breakers worked day and night, hidden, silent, relentless. They called the ship Whisper. It had no weapons, no crew compartments. It wasn't made to fight, it was made to disappear. One launch, one chance. If the aliens saw them, they would be vaporized before reaching orbit. But if they succeeded, everything would change. The launch day came. They used an old missile silo, long sealed deep in the mountains. The ship was loaded onto a magnetic rail system. It had no countdown, no broadcast, no support, only darkness. Breath held tight. Kara stood beside the ship's small AI interface. You sure this will work? She asked. The VLAROV didn't answer. Placed a hand on the hole. This is for all of us, he said. For Earth. For freedom. For the stars. The silence was broken by a deep hum. The ship moved, and then it vanished. Above Earth, the alien. Ships stirred. Sensors flickered. Drones turned, but there was nothing. No light, no signal, just ... A whisper. The whisper moved through low orbit like a shadow. Tech worked. The alien net didn't detect it. Not yet, but something else did. Far out in the Kuiper belt, a dormant sensor blinked. Old, rusty, forgotten. It sent a single ping. A signal long buried ... and somewhere beyond Neptune, something ancient responded back in the skies. The council grew suspicious. Their sensors had noticed a momentary distortion. They investigated. Drones were dispatched, but Earth looked normal. People still worked, still lived, still obeyed, and the council relaxed again. They didn't know that Kara's ship had already left the system. They didn't know that inside Whisper, Kara and her small crew were decoding an alien message picked up just hours into flight. A message. Not from Earth, but from somewhere older. Older than the council. Older than the chains. A voice spoken low. Broken tones. Humanity. We see you. We remember you. Come find us. Kara leaned forward. Who are they? She asked. Velar stared at the data. I think, he said slowly, they're not our enemies. I think they're the reason the council is afraid. And back. On Earth, a boy stood on a hill looking at the stars. He had never seen a rocket launch, never seen the moon without a cage around it. But he believed something. One day, the sky would open again, and humanity would rise, not as prisoners, but as something far more dangerous. Free. There was no space travel anymore. No ships, no launches, no countdowns. But one man still stared at the sky like it owed him something. His name was Jonah Merrick. He used to be a senior engineer at Europa Corp, one of the biggest space companies. On Earth now, he worked as a janitor inside an old research station in the African desert. People thought he was broken after the treaty. Jonah had lost everything. His lab, his license, even his family. His wife had died during the early shutdowns. His daughter had been taken off-world by alien diplomats who claimed she had rare DNA. That was years ago now. He pushed a mop down gray hallways and slept in a closet, but no one ever looked inside that closet, because inside it was a stolen alien warp core. the day the ships arrived. Jonah had seen something no one else noticed. A glitch in the alien landing sequence. A pattern. He recorded it. Studied it for years in secret. And when the drones came to shut down Earth's science hubs, he smuggled out a single device from the archives, a strange cube. The aliens never fully understood themselves. It hummed with strange energy. They thought it was useless. They were wrong. Jonah knew what it was. A gravitational key. A component needed to shapespace it. With it, he started building something impossible. Not in a lab, in a junkyard. By day, cleaned toilets. By night, he worked under the desert stars, far from sensors, using scrap metal and discarded tech. He built the frame of a small one-man ship using pieces from old cargo drones. Satellite parts and aircraft husks that hadn't flown in years. He called it the Whisper's Brother. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't pretty. But it was invisible. He coated it in reactive plating, black metal that absorbed light, heat and signal. Even alien scans wouldn't pick it up unless it was right in front of them. Still, he needed help. And help came from someone he never expected. Zad, an alien exile. She wasn't like the others, not part of the council. Her people had been wiped out by the same peacekeepers now watching Earth. She'd crashed on Earth. Years ago, during the first lockdown, most thought she was dead. Jonah found her half buried under sand, barely breathing. He didn't turn her in, he hid her, and in return, she taught him how to steal from the council's tech. They chained your world, she said, same as they did mine. But chains break when you pull from the inside. Together, they made the ship fly. One night, something changed. Jonah intercepted a strange signal. It wasn't from Earth. Not from any council drone either, it was human. A voice came through, broken and filled with static. "This is Kara M aboard." Whisper. "We left Earth. Successfully. Contacting hidden outposts now. Earth must know," Council lied. "They took more than freedom." Jonah froze. He replayed the message 20 times. Earth's lockdown was not total. Someone got out. Someone was fighting he had to follow. Zyra heard the signal too. "It's a call to war," she said. "The first flare. If one ship escaped, more must follow." Jonah nodded. But to leave Earth, they needed a launch, and launches were suicide. Alien drones scanned the sky's orbit and surface. Any attempt to launch would be noticed immediately. Unless they used the old waste tunnel beneath the desert. It had been built decades ago, an underground pipeline. It's meant to dispose of radioactive material from an abandoned solar plant. The shaft ran deep, led to a vertical silo that could be repurposed. If Jonah could reach high enough velocity inside the shaft, the ship could break through the upper atmosphere without a traditional launch tower. It was madness. And it was perfect. They worked fast. Jonah rigged old engines with alien tech, Zero modified. The gravitational key was inserted into the ship's drive system. They built shock dampeners out of repurposed car suspension. The tunnel became a railgun, primitive but powerful. They had one shot. The Council's orbit net swept Earth every 45 minutes. They'd have a 12-second window, no more. On launch day, the desert was silent. The stars above blinked with quiet. Judgment. Zyra placed a small beacon near the surface, designed to mimic a false ship signature and draw alien attention in the wrong direction. Jonah climbed into the cockpit. Everything shook. He was inside a metal coffin powered by stolen hope. Zyra gave one last look. "If you reach the outpost," she said, "tell them. The galaxy has not forgotten Earth, and some of us still bleed." Jonah nodded. He pressed the ignition. The shaft lit with fire. The ship shot upward like a bullet. The gravity pushed Jonah into the seat so hard, he felt his bones would snap. Then dash nothing. He was in space. No alarms. No sensors. He was free. But not alone. An alien drone spotted the afterburn. Jonah saw the red light flashing behind. Him a pursuit drone, fast, quiet. Deadly, he couldn't outrun it. He had no weapons, but he had something else. He activated the warp core. Reality bent. The ship twisted like paper caught in wind and vanished. He reappeared hours later, hundreds of thousands of kilometers from Earth. The drone was gone, but something else floated in front of him. A station, old human-made, orbiting a dead moon, and on its side, faded but still visible, Outpost T-47. Terran Defense Branch. Kara's outpost. Jonah docked slowly as he stepped into the airlock. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The doors hissed open. Inside stood 3 people in ragged gear, holding rifles made from scrap. One stepped forward. "You're not one of us," she said. Jonah raised his hands. "No," he said. "But I heard your message and I brought something." He handed over the gravitational key. The woman's eyes widened. "That's council-level tech," she whispered. Jonah smiled. "They locked Earth." He paused. "But they forgot we build our best things in the dark." Inside the outpost. "The fire is spreading." The man nodded. "They thought Earth was asleep." Kara shook her head. "No," she said. "Earth was dreaming, and now it's waking up." Above Earth, the alien ship still circled, still silent, still cold. But they didn't know the storm had already begun. From beneath the dust, from janitors and junkyards, from forgotten tunnels and stolen cores, humanity was rising, not with fleets, not with armies, but with fire in their hearts and stars in their blood. The outpost was dying. Outpost T-47 floated in the shadow of a broken moon, half hidden in debris and silence. Built during the last days of Earth's space age, it had once been a deep space monitoring station, abandoned when the treaty was forced on humanity. But someone had kept it alive. Inside its cold halls, flickering lights still glowed, doors still hissed open. And old consoles, once dusty and forgotten, now hummed again with power. They called it the Heart, not because it was big, not because it was powerful, but because it still remembered Earth. Kara stood alone in the command room. The walls were patched with steel plates. Wires snaked along the floor, and the central monitor flickered every few seconds. Still, she stared at it like it was sacred. 3 new pings. 3 new escape attempts from Earth. 2 failed. 1 destroyed mid-flight, but 1 made it through. A man named Jonah, an engineer who had no right to still be alive. A man who smuggled alien tech, built a ship in secret, and somehow slipped through the Council's net. Kara had met him only once, when he stepped off his ship. Bleeding and coughing, holding the gravitational key that now powered the stations. Silent engines. She didn't trust him, but she knew what he meant. Earth wasn't sleeping anymore. Jonah woke in the infirmary, strapped to a bunk. His body was weak. His lungs burned from the stress of the launch. He blinked slowly. Someone sat beside him. "Still alive," Kara said quietly. "Not bad, old man." Jonah coughed. "You the one who broke the chains?" Kara shook her head. Was just the first to stop believing they were real. She handed him a tablet data filled with coordinates, scans, intercepted council orders. "We're not alone," she said. "There are others. Outposts, fragments, survivors even. Defectors." Jonah leaned forward. "Why haven't we contacted Earth?" Kara looked down. "They jam everything. We tried, dozens of times. The moment we ping the surface, orbital weapons come online. They won't let the truth reach home." Jonah nodded slowly. "Then we need to send it another way." Post T-47 had secrets even its crew didn't understand. Deep in the core was a black box. Buried behind sealed panels and forgotten systems, Jonah found it by accident, or maybe fate. He was tracing old wiring systems, looking for a backup power line when his scanner pinged something strange. A non-human frequency. Something pulsing like a heartbeat. He followed it and found the door. It was old pre-treaty, but the lock wasn't human. Jonah called Kara. Together, they opened it. Inside was a smooth black sphere, floating, turning slowly. Zyra, alien who had helped Jonah, had once described something like this. Memory nodes, they are rare, forbidden. Used only in ancient wars, they store not just data, but emotion, experience, truth. Jonah stared at the sphere. Then we send this back. Kara frowned. How? Jonah smiled faintly. We don't send it through the council's net. He looked at the broken moon outside the window. We drop it straight down. The plan was reckless. Impossible. Perfect. They would attach the memory sphere to a stealth drone. Launch it toward Earth, using a slingshot orbit, disguised as space debris. The drone would break through the lower layers of the orbital net during a solar flare, and when alien sensors were temporarily blinded if it worked. The drone would crash in a desert near Kazakhstan, the same place Jonah had launched from. There, an old contact, someone still loyal to the cause, would retrieve it and spread the message across Earth. The sphere would show everything: council secrets, Earth's lockdown lies, experiments on stolen humans, and voices from the stars. Who still remembered them? If it failed, they'd all be marked, not just as traitors, but as threats. They had one window, a 12-minute gap during the next flare. Storm, Jonah, and Kara worked through the night. They used every tool, every piece of scavenged alien tech, and every bit of hope. They had left when the time came. The drone was ready, small, silent, invisible. It hovered outside the launch bay. Jonah placed his hand on it. You carry everything now, he whispered. The truth, the spark. Don't fall. The drone fired and vanished into the stars. Above Earth, the alien ships noticed. Nothing. The flare storm was strong. Sensors were blind. Even the inner patrol drones went quiet. But not all of them. One ship smaller than the rest had been upgraded. New class of watcher. Silent, intelligent, paranoid. It licked up the shift and followed. The drone made it halfway. Then the sky exploded. Day. Blue beam cut across space, a warning shot. The watcher ship had seen the drop. It moved fast, faster than any human tech could avoid. Kara and Jonah watched from the outpost. Helpless, Kara whispered. It's over. Jonah shook his head. No, not yet. Inside the drone, the memory sphere pulsed. It detected the lock. It changed form, expanding, turning liquid, releasing a burst of energy. For a split second, time bent. The drone scattered. But the sphere dropped straight through the atmosphere, straight toward Earth in the Kazakh desert. An old shepherd looked to the sky. He saw a streak of silver like a falling star. But this one didn't burn. It didn't fade. It struck the sand. Softly, when he walked to it, he found something strange. A black orb, warm to the touch. And when he picked it up, he heard voices. We are still here. They lied to you. Humanity is not alone. News spread like wildfire, not on screens, not online, but whispered. Written, shared hand, -to-hand, in every corner of the world. People began to ask questions again. Why had Earth been locked? Why had space been forbidden? Why were so many missing? And what else had the stars hidden from them? The council noticed. Too late, the message had already passed. The watchers turned to Earth, scanning cities, hunting signs of rebellion, and in the shadows of 1,000 bunkers, old men, young women, silent engineers began to rise. Back on the outpost, Kara stood at the window. Jonah joined her. You think it worked? He asked. Kara nodded. Double quotes they know now. They'll never forget. Again. Jonah stared into the dark. Then we prepare. Prepare for what? She asked. He didn't blink. For their response, far beyond the council's borders. In a region forgotten by maps, an ancient ship began to move. It wasn't human. It wasn't council. It was something else, something older. And inside, a voice echoed. The humans remember. Then it is time. Awaken the wrath. Long before the council ruled the stars, before Earth was chained, before the treaties, there was a ship. No one built it. No one claimed it. No one mapped it. They called it a Nell vessel. A legend whispered even among ancient empires. It didn't appear on any scanner. It had no heat.
Out. No signature.
No name. Some said it was older than galaxies. Others said it was a weapon forged in the heart of a dying star. But one thing was always certain. Where it appeared, civilizations fell. And now it was moving again. Jonah didn't know about the ship. Not yet. He stood in the engineering bay of Outpost T-47, his hands black with grease, patching wires, checking pressure valves. The outpost had begun to flicker, old circuits dying, its backup power dropping. The gravitational key had given them a boost, but it wasn't enough. Anymore, the Council had responded to the sphere drop. Hard Earth's orbital net had been reinforced. New. Patrols arrived in every sector, and something worse. Kara stepped into the room, holding a tablet. Her face was pale. "You need to see this." Jonah wiped his hands and leaned in. The screen showed star charts, but something was off. "There's a void," Kara said. "Sector V7 Delta, it used to have a red dwarf. Now, nothing." Jonah stared. A system gone, erased. No debris. No readings, no gravity, just silence. "What did that?" Kara didn't speak for a moment, then she whispered, "They say the null vessel wakes when the balance tips." Jonah frowned. "That's just a myth." Kara looked at him. Meanwhile, deep in that dead sector, the ship moved, not with engines, but with intention. It drifted like a shadow through the void, surface shifting, like it was made of liquid obsidian. Around it, light bent, time twisted. Old signals from forgotten wars echoed in silence. Inside it, there were no crew. Only presence, memories, and a voice. It had no words, yet it spoke to the bones. "Earth burns with fury. The chains will shatter. It is time." The ship turned toward Earth at the same time. Something strange happened in the outpost. The black memory sphere, the one sent to Earth, began to pulse. It was just a backup sphere now. Copy. But it began humming. Jonah found it sitting. In its containment field, glowing faintly blue, he scanned it. The readings made no sense. It was receiving something. Not a signal, not data, but recognition. "It's being scanned," Jonah muttered. "By what?" Kara asked. Jonah hesitated. "Something that knows us." That night, Outpost T-47's outer cameras picked up movement. A ripple then. A ship. But not like any council ship. Not human either. It simply appeared silent, massive, like a mountain had drifted into orbit. Jonah and Kara watched in frozen silence. "It wasn't there a minute ago," Kara said. "No engines," Jonah added. "No ID, no signature, no energy field." Outpost. Old computers screamed with errors. Gravity shifted inside the station. Some walls creaked. The power dimmed, then returned. The ship did nothing, just hovered, watching. Then came the transmission. No language, no code, just images. First, Earth covered in light. Second, Council fleets circling like vultures. Third, a hand breaking. A chain. And last, the symbol of humanity's first deep space fleet. Long band. Erased. Forgotten. Jonah gasped. "That's the old Earth Navy crest." Kara's hands shook. "It's testing us." The null vessel sent one final signal. One chance. One flame. And then it opened a bay, a corridor of light, an invitation. Jonah didn't hesitate. He suited up Kara. Grabbed his shoulder. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "If this is what I think it is, then it's the oldest thing in the galaxy that still believes in us." He entered the launch pod. The small ship carried him toward the null vessel as he approached. Space around him warped like swimming through thick fog. The vessel's surface shifted, revealing impossible geometry. It was as if the ship remembered different shapes from different ages. He docked. The airlock opened, and Jonah stepped inside. It was silent. The interior was like walking through a dream. Walls flowed like water. Glowing veins of light pulsed around him. There were no control panels, no seats. Just a central chamber. In it, a single object, a chair, or a throne. No wires, no harness. Just a place to sit. Jonah approached. As he touched it, memories not his own rushed into him. Battles from 10,000 years ago. Ships falling, planets screaming. A galaxy once filled with warriors who chose to erase themselves before becoming tyrants. Then Earth, a small blue planet, rising like a spark in darkness. The null vessel had seen Earth from afar, long ago, and it remembered. Jonah sat, and the ship reacted. The lights changed. The chamber closed. Jonah felt the ship inside his. Mind, no words, just purpose. Back on the outpost. Alarms blared. The null vessel was moving again. But this time, not silently. Its form shifted, growing armor, building cannons that hadn't fired in millennia. Its skin glowed with power older than stars. Kara watched in awe. Jonah's voice came through the comms. But not from any known frequency. I'm here, and it chose us. Kara gasped. Jonah, we're not fighting with scraps anymore. We have a ghost ship from the first war. Let's wake the rest. On Earth, rebel cells picked up strange readings in the skies. Patterns appeared, old war formations seen only in myth. The council grew nervous, and in their grand chamber, one high elder whispered, "The null has returned." But it was too late. The flame had been lit. Earth had a weapon now, not built with steel, not controlled by politics, but bound by memory and fury. And now, it was moving toward the Council's core worlds. The Council had never feared anything. They ruled with silence and fire. They broke civilizations. Before they could rise, and Earth was just another name on their long list of chained worlds. But something had changed. The humans were whispering again, spreading stories, rebelling, and worse. They had awakened something that was never meant to return. The null vessel had moved in the war room. Above Council World Theta, 12 elders watched footage in silence. A black shape gliding through dead sectors, power readings off the charts. Shields. Unknown. Weapons silent, but present. A vessel older than the Council itself. Elder Viros broke the silence first. His voice shook. The legends were true. Elder Keat leaned forward. Then we cannot wait. She tapped her claw against the marble table. Activate the terminal cannon. All eyes turned to her. Even Viros blinked. That weapon has never been fired. Keat didn't care. If we wait, Earth will rise. Null will return, and everything we built will burn. High above the rings of Council Prime, buried inside a forgotten moon, the terminal cannon awoke. It had been hidden. Since the formation of the Council, it was not designed to conquer. It was not designed to scare. It was designed to erase whole systems, whole timelines. A single blast. A planet would simply never have existed. Council Command had always considered it a last resort, something to be used if the old wars returned. Now, pointed toward Earth. But they didn't realize one thing. The null vessel felt such weapons before they formed. It was made in the age of stars, when machines sang and memory was sacred. And now, Jonah, the last human linked to it, felt it too. He stood on the bridge, his mind connected to the ship. Seeing things no human was ever meant to see, he gasped. They're going to fire. Kara's voice crackled through the coms from Outpost T-47. What? How? A weapon buried in their moon. It will erase Earth. Like we were never born. Kara's hands tightened into fists. There has to be a way to stop it. Jonah closed his eyes, and the null vessel responded. The ship pulsed, not in speed, not in light, but in presence. It vanished from space, blinked out of reality for a full second, and reappeared. In front of the moon that held the terminal cannon. Council sensors didn't even register it until it was too late. The moon's surface peeled open, gigantic. Metallic petals rotated. At the center, a spike of light began forming. Earth's last. Seconds were now counting down. Jonah whispered. Now? The null vessel fired. Nothing, no beam, no explosion, just sound, a deep, harmonic pulse. It rippled across space, visible, and struck the terminal cannon. The light collapsed. The spike fell apart. Inside the moon, control systems shorted out. Heat levels dropped. Cables froze. And the terminal cannon, the Council's final weapon, simply failed to fire. Panic spread like wildfire. Council ships scrambled. Fleets were ordered to converge, and on every channel, the same message was repeated. The null defied the shot. It protected Earth. They are rising. On Earth, humanity heard the news. Not through government, not through broadcast, but through the black. Memory spheres now fully awakened. From basements to bunkers, children touched them and remembered. Soldiers in old uniforms stood up again. Scientists reopened secret labs, and families began looking up at the sky, not in fear, but in hope. The Council doubled down. They summoned the Arbiter's 10 biomechanical warlords, grown in silence and trained only for extinction events. Each one could destroy continents. They had one mission now: crush Earth. Crush Outpost T-47. Crush the null vessel. And this time, no warnings. Jonah saw them coming, not with eyes. With instinct, the null vessel's systems came alive. Doors opened. Cannons merged. Its shape twisted, taking on its true form. Not just a ship, but a guardian. A memory of vengeance. A soul carved into steel. Kara prepared the outpost for impact. The fleet of Arbiters was heading straight for them. They would arrive in 6 hours. No help was coming. Earth was still recovering. Other outposts were hiding, and only the null stood between them and death. Jonah's voice came through again. We hold here. Kara looked at the tactical map. We're outnumbered, Jonah replied, calm and certain. We're not outmatched. When the Arbiters entered range, space-twisted 210 enormous warforms surrounded the null vessel, each 3 times its size. Bristling with weapons from 1,000 worlds, they charged. The battle began. The null did not move like any ship. It danced. Gravity bent around it. Shots phased through it. Its cannons didn't fire lasers. They fired memory blasts. Pure compressed. Events of extinction. The first Arbiter disintegrated in mid-flight, not damaged, but unborn. The second turned against its ally, confused by false timelines. The third stopped completely, whispering names of long-dead species as its mind cracked. Outpost T-47 shook. As fragments of the battle echoed across the system, Kara watched the impossible unfold. A human in control of a ship that predated history, and one by one, the Arbiters fell until the last one tried to flee. The null vessel didn't follow. It simply opened a rift and pulled it back in, with no sound, no mercy. When the battle ended, the stars were quiet again. No council weapon had worked. No fleet had survived. The terminal cannon had failed, and the myth had returned as reality. Kara sent the signal across the resistance network. Across Earth, across every world where a human heart still beat. We survived the impossible. Their strongest weapon did nothing. Now it's our turn. In the Council's grand chamber, Elder Viros dropped to his knees. They've become what we feared. Elder Keat stared at the screen and whispered 2 words. The reckoning, far across the galaxy, in a system once erased. Another null vessel woke up. It had also heard the cannon fail, and it, too, remembered Earth. There was silence across the stars. Not peace, not surrender, fear. The null vessel had awakened. The Council's final weapon had failed. 10 Arbiters had fallen in a battle that didn't even last an hour. And now, Earth stood unbroken. First time in history, the galaxy listened, not to the Council's voice, but to Earth's silence. In the ruins of Outpost T-47, Kara stood on a steel platform, staring up at the stars. Behind her, engineers worked day and night. Soldiers trained without rest. Scientists reverse-engineered captured Council tech. The null vessel hovered silently above them, shadow in orbit, unmoving, watching. But something had changed. Jonah was gone, at least. Physically, his body was never recovered. His voice had. Faded days ago, but Kara knew. Still there. Somewhere in that ship, merged, transformed. He had become memory, across Earth's surface. The black memory spheres fully activated. They began to sing, not songs. Not words, but visions. Children dreamed of planets no longer mapped. Old men cried, recognizing faces they had never seen before. And rebel leaders hardened and cold now spoke with ancient knowledge. They couldn't explain. The null wasn't just a ship. It was a signal, and it had triggered something that could not be stopped. In a hidden mountain vault beneath Iceland, a machine came online. Humans had built it centuries ago and buried it, afraid of what it meant. It was called Project Catalyst. Its purpose? To awaken Earth's deepest weapon. Not a bomb, not a fleet, but truth. The council panicked. Elder Keat ordered every remaining fleet toward Earth. No negotiation, no threats, just annihilation. This wasn't punishment. This was fear, the kind even rulers feel when history turns against them. But they didn't reach Earth in time, because Earth had already moved. From hidden stations in Saturn's rings to ancient bunkers under Mars' dust. The call went out. Humanity launched, but they didn't rise alone. They flew with null echoes, fragments of the original ship. Now awakened from dead moons and forgotten fields, each one bonded to a human, each one alive with old vengeance, and behind them, Jonah, not as a man, not as a voice, but as a presence inside the original vessel now burning brighter than ever. He spoke only once, and the whole galaxy heard him. You chained us. You erased our past. You silenced our skies. But now, you will understand something simple. We were never the ones to fear your war. You should have feared our memory. The Earth fleet entered council, its face like a wave of light and ash. The first system fell without a fight. The second tried to resist and vanished from sensors within seconds. By the third, its council commanders began to abandon their posts. By the fourth, entire worlds surrendered before ships even arrived, because they remembered. Long ago. In the age of old stars, humans had been warriors, before treaties, before exile, before silence. Now, warrior blood had returned. Elder Keat sat alone in the grand chamber. The other elders had vanished. Some escaped. Most were. So lucky. The walls cracked. The sky above split as the null vessel arrived over Council Prime. No weapons aimed. No message sent. Just presence. Jonah's voice echoed again, but this time only for her. You thought the stars belonged to you, but they belong to no one. Not even us. This isn't revenge. This is removal. Explosion, no fire, just erasure. The council homeworld was rewritten as if it had never existed. Its place now showed only drifting dust and stars. Back on Earth, the memory spheres dimmed. The skies were calm. The fleets returned, but humanity had changed. They no longer looked at the stars with curiosity. They looked with clarity. They had seen what chains could do and what freedom cost. They had paid the price. And now, they stood as guardians, not rulers, not conquerors, but reminders, Kara. Sat beside the old control panel of Outpost T-47. The wind outside was calm. The sky was clear. She whispered to no one, "Is it over?" And for the first time in weeks, she heard Jonah's voice again, not through the combs, not in her ears, but in her heart. No chains remain, and that was always the goal. Galaxy would never forget what came from Earth. Not destruction, not tyranny, but memory, sharpened into steel. the kind that never dies, the kind that returns when silence grows too loud. They backed our chains now. They remember our wrath. And this time they will not forget.